chemistry.
It's funny how wide it looks and how close we're sitting to each other. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's so much more space.
You guys are in HD too. Talk about just that was an amazing performance, and you guys just come up here and you do this in here all the time, but everything starts rolling. What kind of headspace do you guys get into when you're in the middle of a song? Could you put that into words? That kind of that feeling, that emotion.
Yeah, for myself, when we're performing something like that live, I often close my eyes just to get into a headspace, kind of. If that answers your, that's for my personal experience, but that's not the same for everyone. But yeah.
And for me, I just watch Trixie, and that's the advantage to performing close together. So I just watch her phrasing, and as she's singing, I try and harmonize with her, or kind of stay out of the way, and then when she finishes, then I can respond, which is a nice thing to do. And given that we're a three-piece band behind her, we can really work our dynamics. So it's a great luxury. It's a lot of fun, actually, because not a lot of clutter. You know?
Yeah, talk about, that's kind of the essence of what Black Dove is all about. You guys playing off each other. And what was the first time you guys were in a room together doing that? And how natural was that?
Do you want me to go and then you could butt in?
Go ahead.
I was visiting Berkeley College in Boston, a music school, as a visiting prof, and I was doing a day in the studio for the students, and they said, who would you like to record? And I thought, let's give Trixie a ring. And so that was kind of our inauguration, if you like. And it was a very fantastic musical day, you know, first take with a vocal in the raw band, and then a few overdubs, and it seemed to go really well. And what was great about it was I was very specific about how I saw things, and then Trixie was very specific about how she wanted to stack up the harmonies, and I had no idea where she was going. And before I knew it, it was all stacked up and sounding amazing. I thought, wow, just the unexpected. It's great. Talent, it's called.
Yeah.
Well, and trust, you know, I think I'd Rather Go Blind is a great example, because I'd never actually been in a room with Brian or Dan like that, and especially not for, but that was, you know, I mean, that's a perfect example of how, you know, I mean, when you put people together, and I think just, you know, when there's certain chemistry and you can trust each other's instincts in a very natural way without, you know, even having to rationalize it too much or whatever, then the rest just follows, you know. And I think that was a good instigator of that for the rest to come after that session, basically. Yeah, so.
And how soon did you know that rest was going to come? When this was going to be a project, it was going to be an album, how did that gear kind of get into motion?
The Berkeley visit was, we had no preconceptions about where that would go. It was really just, let's see if we can record a song with Trixie, and that was that. And then I had another song on the run called I Believe in You, and I invited Trixie to come to Toronto to work on that one with me, and she loved the track, and you know, we sort of touched up the lyrics, and then she knocked it out in one take, and thought, wow, it's an indication of how well we could work together. And at that point, I formally invited Trixie to jump on the project, and she agreed. So here we are.
And how big of a deal was that for you? You know, he can work with everyone there is in the world of the best talent in the world, and for you to be at that level, obviously, must just be a nice vote of confidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was obviously very, touched and also kind of, I couldn't really wrap my head around it at the same time, but also at the same time I could, because at that time I was still like waitressing and stuff and working in like bars and shit, but I grew up, you know, in a very musical environment, and much of that environment, even though Dan and I hadn't seen each other for probably like 18 years, him and his entourage of people were a lot of my musical upbringing, even though we physically weren't together all the time. So it kind of, that made a lot of sense in my mind. Like, all right, this was meant to happen somehow. You know, like, not to be too, like, but in that sense, you know, it just made sense. It was kind of like a puzzle coming together, you know. That's kind of how it felt to me, in a way. And at the same time, of course, I've you know, I still feel super grateful for everything, and yeah, just, you know, I'm embracing every minute of it in every different, you know, there's a lot of different aspects, you know, so so I'm embracing it all and just grateful and yeah, so.
In terms of the kind of music you guys have been playing, how much of that were specific conversations about the direction you wanted things to go? How much of that was organic from just spending time together?
Some of it came out of hanging out together. This song we just did, Surely, I suppose we wouldn't have recorded it with Black Dove if Trixie hadn't been staying in the house at that time. You know, it's just a song that popped up, and she said, wow, I like those lyrics, and could we give it a try? And the Black Dove record was essentially finished, but we knocked out a fast version of that, live off the floor, vocal and all, and that was a certain kind of confidence builder, and I mean, it's not the only way we work. You know, we're quite capable of knocking them out live, but we also like the magic of the studio, and we understand that it's a great place of creativity, and so we like to mix. We like to mix machines with hand played samples. You know, there are no holds barred with the way we work, and so we can go quite hand played or quite urban if we want. It's the broad spectrum is available to us, and I feel that we're very lucky to have Trixie representing the world through her eyes and bringing it to us. You know,
Well, I think kind of, I mean, to come back to that subject, you know, like of how, I think Black Dove also kind of how it came together so naturally is even though I feel like we all come from such different places and obviously, you know, different generations, but at the same time, whether it's live or in the studio, I think from the beginning we kind of had a mutual understanding of the same language, you know, same understanding of and philosophies of what we desire to get back from music, you know. So that I think is, you know, that is to me is a core of a lot of other things to blossom out of that, you know, if you can, yeah. So.
And when you see that language, though, then transcend yourselves and speak to the audience at a show and speak to people listening to the record. What does that mean to you? Because you guys can make beautiful music in here, but what's it mean when you see the response has been amazing to the album?
We've been getting nice responses live. I think people appreciate that we have authenticity available. We don't use a lot of trickery on stage. We're pretty much, you know, a hand-played organization. The term we're using today is we're a self-balancing act that we can. So we really believe in like in the dynamics of the night, because every night is a different night when you got Brian Blade on the drums. So it's sometimes he just start playing a whole other groove for a song that we're familiar with, and we like that because you know, Trixie has a chance to go somewhere else with her phrasing and her melodies, and I can go louder and quieter relative to what Brian presents us with, and
Well, it keeps things fresh, you know, and I think we're all seeking for innovation, you know, music, instrumentally, on stage, performance-wise. You know, you want to keep things fresh, and you want to stay excited, and that's, yeah. I think the audience feels that too, you know, that kind of energy. We want to share that, you know. You want to kind of indulge into that together with your audience and what you're experiencing on stage. So.
When you have that kind of dynamic, then when things are always changing, they're always exciting, how hard is it to settle on a record to take and a final, anything for a record? When does that process stop? When do you let it go?
Well, the record making is a whole other thing. oftentimes with record making, we develop the material as we're going along, so the material has not found its ultimate identity, and that's part of the record making process. So, you know, we're happy to experiment and try it this way and that way, and then whatever holds the most magic is the one that we will build on. And then we take it to the stage and we better it.
All three of you are so busy with other projects and talents in your own right in so many ways. How long-standing real is this project in terms of other records? What's a side project? What isn't? Do you even think of things in those terms at all?
Well, it's very true that perhaps it's a reflection of modern times. You know, we have interests outside of Black Dove. I mean, Trixie's going to make a solo album. It's going to start in May, and everybody's looking forward to that. Brian is one of the jazz drummers, very much in demand. He plays with, you know, some of the giants of our time, and so we encourage him to go out there and do what he grew up playing. But I've figured out how to keep everybody interested for a while. We're going to make the next record in Jamaica. So Jamaica. So, you know, I think we might just put a little time aside for that, because it sounds collaborative and fun, and how great would that be to be in that country where a lot of music we love came from.
Talk about where the enjoyment in this still comes from for you, because you can take a year off if you wanted to and not do this. What's the pleasure in being part of a creative musical world on a daily basis?
I'm still addicted to the same old drug. When innovative results are had, then I'm living in euphoria. So that's it. Laboratory is my domain, but then the stage, you know, brings a lot of surprises. So that's what keeps us coming back.
What could people look forward to in terms of shows and more Black Dove this year?
Summertime in Europe. We're going to play the Jazz Festival in Montreal on the 4th of July, Toronto on the 5th, and then we go to Europe, make a little noise out there. We're going to make it to Trixie's home country, Belgium.
One of them.
One of them. And we like playing to, you know, international audiences. The world is going that way, isn't it? I mean, everything is. I mean, there's rock and roll and innovative works coming out of places that people used to laugh at, you know. So you just never know where it's going to come from. And I don't know. I think we've got a pretty tight little ensemble here with Black Dove, and we can knock it out, you know, in an arena. We can knock it out in a front room. We can knock it out at a radio station, TV studio, anywhere. So put us to work.
Hint.
looking for more. And if you just put into words, even though you touched on, just wanted to get it from you guys, how would you describe what you do, besides it being authentic, besides it being great? What, if you can just put into words what Black Dove is.
You want to go?
Yeah, I mean, it can be put very simple, you know? I mean, for me at least, again, you know, it's like, how much do you want to, of course, you know, you can go and really, you know, rationally explain things, but I think ultimately we're all kind of working by the same thing, is from a truthful place from the soul. Yeah. And trying to translate that. So, I mean, that to me is kind of the main core of the sound in all, you know, aesthetics of the album. I mean, when you listen to the instrumental parts, you know, Dan's instrument, it's like, it comes from the same place, you know, as is the bass lines, you know, as it just comes from a deep kind of soulful generated engine, you know, and I don't mean that within the stylistic type of soul music, but just like everything I think in the record has those same components, and that's you know, I think what you know.
Yeah, I think soul music is a good banner to be operating under. As Trixie pointed out, it's not specifically like R&B soul, but soul as in music that has come to you. It has a reason to exist. You know,
Yeah.
Brian on the drums, he learned to play in church and serving singers, and it really comes through in his playing. You know, I grew up with traditional music, but I mean, those are the inspirations that we grew from. But we are also futurists. We want to be innovators and create sounds and songs that have never been heard before. So we're trying to carry the torch the best we can of soul music.
And there must be pride in that too, knowing that you're taking all these disparate elements and putting it together into something very fresh and new.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only to me, this is not only like an influence, it's also just, as you said, just kind of a need, you know? It's like, I personally can't imagine functioning musically in a different way. So that I don't know if that's, I'm not really answering your question here, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah, we're not stylists. We don't think
Yeah.
about, oh, maybe we should do something in this style, or maybe we should go a little more electro. We just follow our instincts and come up with the songs we come up with. And so far, so good, you know. It's,
Sure.
it's nice. I mean, there's all kind of music out there. You know, there's quite a bit of it that's fixed tempo driven, because that synchronizes with a light show, and that makes for a bigger show in a stadium, and you can't argue with that. But I believe that if you've got your soul intact and you're delivering music that you have belief in, you're really honestly dedicated to, that will communicate to the greatest distance.
Yeah, and it's really it's really a very simple concept, you know, when you think of it. Like, say, because if that is the seeds that you're growing from, you know, you're most likely going to touch other souls. If you're touched yourself from what you're doing from a deep place, you can add all that shit, but you're not. Oh, sorry, but you're not. but you don't need it. You can just. You know, and that's kind of the great thing, is like it gives you a larger palette to work with. I think if you start from that position of a sincere kind of, you know, an emotional state where it can be all kind, you know, any state, you know, whether it's happiness or you know, fear and whatever, and then you know, but I feel the need that's the fundamental. Kind of purpose to start from, personally. That's just my own thing, you know.
Yeah, and therein lies the beauty. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are great. Thank you.
Sorry.
I hope you got something.
That was.
You think you got enough to work with?
Oh yeah,
Jordan?
Yeah,
good stuff.
sorry.
Really good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.